technical snafu. Apparently, when Quiet Man entered the room or exited the room, his hauler truck ran over our feed, and Carlin Hicks, your host, was temporarily disconnected, but they have reinstalled my nanobot circuit board, and I am back in the booth to bring you the absolute median in sports broadcasting. So one shoe, we're back now. Hoping it'll keep us going here.
I was kind of wondering if it was the difference between, you know, the European voltage being 220 volts, 50 hertz, as opposed to American being 120 volts, 60 hertz.
Yeah, could be. Anyway, back on it.
I just thrown something out there.
Yeah. Down inside of 3 minutes here in qualifying, and as we talked about earlier, at the moment, Super Crusher, podium finisher, second place at Watkins Glen, as he's around right there, coming down at the approach to the corkscrew, it appears. Super Crusher with his season best and American Sports Car Championship career best second place performance at Watkins Glen. Obviously, he's come in with a fast car, and he's leading the chart, but there's McToasty right in front of him in the 27 Caparel Corvette in this vet heavy field. Currently right behind him in second place, McToasty, winner of the IndyCar race at Watkins Glen last week. But he's also well within this championship, currently sitting sixth. Cat Guy's currently in fourth.
It's certainly a possibility, depending on, again, hardware and performance. We could certainly walk away from here today with the championship all wrapped up.
Yeah, it would be a stretch. Cat Guy would need a 17-point swing because he's 21 up now. He needs to lead with a 38-point lead to clinch it. Doesn't look like, unless he puts in a hot lap here in the last minute, he's going to move up and steal that point. So working on a basis of 35, he'd have to get 17 points more. You're looking at all the top competitors, Lecky, CDN, Super Crusher. They've got to finish sixth or worse, really. Mid-pack or worse for him, and him win the race for him to clinch the championship. It might be a little even steeper than that, talking seventh or eighth.
And I think the way we've seen these guys run, especially that group that you were just talking about, they're certainly that's the upper third of the field that we've seen in most every race too.
It's going to be difficult for him to clinch. I think that his best bet here, obviously, winning the race would be getting maximum points, but getting enough points to where they have to finish on the podium or win the race, whatever, to win the title in the final round. Because the Texas Motor Speedway road course is, it's a roval. There's a lot of guys who are going to have no clue what they're doing at that place, and that's what makes it a great track to run. There's, it's not Monza, it's not Brands Hatch, it's not one that everybody's raced in the public lobby 10,000 times that they have their setup down pat. You're going to have to sacrifice and figure it out. And so that's one of the things which has given Cat Guy a fighting chance, I think, here of doing that despite missing the last round. It's going to be the fact that I believe he will be able to, or there'll be some guys that are going to be completely out to lunch at Texas next week. But
I suspect that we'll see a lot of lobbies going up, a lot of practicing, and a lot of people, especially anybody that's in the top five, to make that swing to. There's kind of a little victory donut there by Super Crusher.
That's going to be his first pole if Pogo, Luke, Green Gaiman, or Lecky doesn't put a hot one in here in the next 30 seconds. That will be, I believe, his first pole in the American GTE Championship. the American Sports Car Championship / GTE class. This is we've seen vets dominate, but I think Porsche, this is the track that might be. We've got Deadly Gaiman and Andrux currently 8th and 10th in qualifying, but there are 2 Porsche drivers, and we'll be keeping an eye on them to see where they end up. The Ferraris have done well this season. They've been the main, surprisingly more so than the Fords, the main competition. All right, Quiet Man looks like he disconnected again, but let's and was that Cat Guy? That was Cat Guy that went with him. Wow, it looks like we're having all kinds of technical problems. And that could just about lock it away. But let's take a look at the starting lineup for tonight's 2021 Season 1 Flux Motorsport American Sports Car Championship in the GTEs at Laguna Seca Raceway. Super Crusher in his Corvette with a 120.793 is your pole sitter, grabbing that valuable bonus point. Starting second will be Mick Toasty, also in the vet. Third will be the veteran Pogo Mojo Corvette as well. Fourth, Jiggly Jello brings his Ford GT, is the highest qualifying Ford. He will be fourth on the row. Muttley with a fantastic qualifying run for him in that Ford GT as they started the race. So we'll give you the best rundown. It's your boy Squash in sixth. Deadly Hawk in the Porsche 7th. Luke Snipes starting 8th. Andrux 9th. CDN Trooper 10th. Green Gaming 11th. And Lecky 12th, as we have a couple of cars getting trouble in inspection. Cat Guy, the points leader, out, apparently, along with the at-large start of Quiet Man. And so we're down to 12 starters here at Laguna Seca for tonight's GTE race. Going to be an interesting front row here as McToasty and Super Crusher will be coming down to the line here on the start, on the rolling start here on the Flux American Tour. Pulling up our live comments here.
I think isn't this Deadly Hawk? I think that's probably one of his better qualifying attempts too.
Yeah, he was sixth, I believe, in one race earlier in the season. I'm gonna have to get our charts together so I can have these in front of me. My notes running out of notes time, but yeah, he was up near the top 5, 6 at one point earlier this season. I'm really interested to see if him and Andrux in the Porsche, because this could definitely be the track for them. Maybe not off the start, but over the long haul, the Porsche might be better on the tires, and that's going to be key here. Laguna Seca, we didn't really get a chance in qualifying to give you the track walkthrough, but considering there will likely be some separation here, we'll walk you through the 11 turns, 2.23 miles here at one of the most iconic road circuits in North America. All right, they are off and rolling. Round 7 at Laguna Seca, the Flux American Sports Car GTE Championship on the line. And they're off, front row, with a sizable lead coming through the kink that is turn 1 down to the Andretti hairpin in turn 2. Super Crusher with the inside. He's got Toasty taking the outside as they come down to the hairpin. Ooh, we got somebody going around.
Contact.
Pogo got hit by somebody. I didn't catch who that was, but somebody sent Pogo around in the hairpin.
Stacking up like hay bales behind.
Luke's got a penalty on. I'm not sure if that was him, but somebody absolutely turned Pogo Mojo. He's got himself back and righted into 7th place as somebody else has gone around, and that looks like it's your boy Squash.
Yeah, couldn't tell. Looked like, oh, there he is. Yeah.
And just like that, trouble on the opening lap. Lost it a bit coming up through that section. Let me pull up my track map here. He lost it coming up through the 5-6 combination. As they come down through the corkscrew, Super Crusher looking to lead the opening lap from the pole. One of the interesting things about this place is it's hard to pass because it's tight, but it's fast enough that these cars will experience aerodynamic understeer, or as us Americans call it, push. They're going to get quite a bit of push if they're right up on somebody coming down into the corner, and that's what can make it even harder to pass. It was especially prominent in the LMP1 cars when they ran alongside these in the past, but you'll see him in these as well, as Super Crusher leads the opening lap. McToasty settling into second. Muttley moving up to third from his 5th place spot in that Ford GT. Pogo all the way back up to 4th after his spin. And Deadly Hawk's got that Porsche. Wonder if Pogo's got any damage on that thing. Probably a little bit to the back end, I would imagine. You can see a little door bang marks on Deadly Hawk's Porsche as well as he settles into 5th place.
They look like they still have their wings on, and that's good news.
Yeah, nobody looks like they need to make a repair. Deadly Hawk under a lot of pressure from Jiggly Jello. I suppose on the replay I can catch who that was that got Pogo. But kind of expected to see that in the Andretti hairpin to some extent. But with Cat Guy out, points on the line, looking at like that, knowing he's not going to score, that puts Lecky, CDN, and Super Crusher in absolute perfect position to make up some ground. Not to mention, as we said, it's not just the championship, it's finishing on the season podium and getting the locked-in guaranteed ride for next season. And this is going to open that up quite a bit, because Cat Guy now could fall completely out of that, and likely will.
Yeah, Cat Guy had a super fast car too. He had qualified well. We got some reports from the pits that he was feeling very positive about it, and he knew he was going to take this opportunity to capitalize and get as much as he could today, knowing that he wasn't going to make the last race of the season.
Looks like Andrux is in the pits in that Porsche. Andrux making the at-large start after not running in the series, and he apparently banged up that 91 Porsche and finds himself hitting the pit lane for some early repairs. Unfortunate for him, as we're pretty confident the Porsches could do something here, but he's got a long way to go, and it's a very tough track. Meanwhile, we still got Deadly Hawk and Jiggly Jello nose to tail, Porsche versus Ford. It's been an interesting challenge. We knew with the number of Corvettes in the series and the quality of the drivers in them that the Vets would be the dominant, would probably be the lead car, let's say, if not dominant, as they have been in this class for a while, whether it was GTE or when it was called GT1, completely distinct in America from the GT1s of Europe, but we knew the Vets would be good. The question at the beginning of the season was which cars would challenge them. You expected it to be the Fords, and it has been the Fords to some extent, but I think that the Ferrari drivers, which include Harry, who's not in the race, they were the main challengers much of this season. Wouldn't you agree, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering what happened with Deadly Hawk there. I don't know if something's wrong with the car, because it seemed like he slowed down and actually let Jiggly Jello go past, and now it almost looks like he's having a little problem staying up with him, where before he was out in front and was really setting the pace between the two of them.
That might just be a strategy thing. He's on a heavy fuel load. He probably has a long tire strategy. Once he Jiggly proved that he had the speed to pass him, he just figured, I'm gonna let it out, let you go, and wait this thing out. We're only 5 minutes into it. We got 40 minutes to go. Let's let this race play out. He's expecting to be good through places like the corkscrew and the rainy curves coming up, and it'll depend. But that to me almost looks like a strategic decision. You can see the car appears to be, I would call it a boxy handling, but that could be because he's on a pad maybe.
Right. But it looks very stable. I mean, he's maintaining an excellent line. Not seeing the rear end slide out. We don't see him locking up the brakes any. Of course, so much for the distance cones there.
There you go.
That'll teach them to be too close to the racing surface.
Absolutely. I think we could get it done real quick here. Let's let our leader and our pole sitter wait till he gets down towards turn 11, what we'll give the track walk here. Actually, let's do it from McToasty, since he's trailing. We'll be able to see the action in front of us as we walk you through the 11 turns here at Laguna Seca Raceway. or whatever corporate sponsor has signed the check. WeatherTech nowadays, Mazda. It is Laguna Seca Raceway.
Yes. Yes, and as I was kind of reminded the other day, those cars that are on the track, those cars run on many, so it's good to have sponsorship.
Oh, yeah. All right, you come down the straight here to the start-finish line in McToastie's Corvette. Turn 1 officially is this kink right here. You're at full throttle all the way through, but you're coming hard down to turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. This is a very tough, very difficult hairpin. You got to keep the car underneath you without, right there the car wants to get a little loose. If you're pushing, it'll send you out to the sand. That sends you through 2, turn 3, the kink to the inside. This one really pushes you outside. A little bit, not off camber, but a very sharp angle. Turn 4 is quick if you got the car set up right, which McToastie appears to have. You're just a quick burp on the throttle heading down to turn 5, which is a fast corner. You want to approach it slow in, fast out, which McToastie does perfectly right there. Take it all the way to the side. Now you're coming down to turn 6 and into what's known as the Rahal Straight, which leads you up towards turns 7 and 8, or 7, 8, and 8A, the corkscrew. Big dive, hard to the left, get off the throttle, let it burp it, go down, and down through that fantastic, one of the most iconic places in American motorsports. And he's staying right there with Super, comes down now into turn 10, heading towards the sharp 90-degree plus turn of turn 11. Once again, wants to push you out in the sand there, but you got to be back on the throttle, and that is 1 lap around Laguna Seca, 2.23 miles. But these two are putting on a show up front. Super Crusher in the lead from the pole with McToastie and his vet right behind him, as these two are battling it out, while there's a battle at third between the two longtime veteran and guys who've turned plenty of miles against each other. Pogo surviving that early contact in turn 1 and has moved all the way back up to third, with Muttley not far behind him, and Jiggly Jello also in the picture. Looks like Deadly Hawk and CDN battling for position in 6th, as Deadly Hawk must have made contact with him. Looks like he gave it back, or maybe he just slid out of the way, but these two battling for 6th. CDN, of course. And
you know, I'm liking what you're saying about Deadly Hawk. Is this his opportunity where he's thinking about, let's, instead of trying to again, as you were mentioning in the pre-race to the drivers, instead of going up front and burning your stuff up, is he going to stretch as much as he can? He knows he's got a fast car, and wait for that opportunity towards the end by saving his equipment.
Yeah, he ran a 1:23.9 the last lap. He's right on top of CDN here, especially through the corkscrew. Right there, you can see the speed. He had to let it off a little bit to not get on top of him, but he might just be saving it. He's running a decent pace, despite the he goes to the inside, or the outside rather, through turn 10. Can he get down? He does. Now here's where he can make the move. If he can be smoother off the corner here in turn 11.
That was pretty good. That was
very
a nice
good.
Exit. Yeah.
Now that vet's got power.
When I grow up, I want to drive like that guy.
There you go. That was perfect. It was a great pass. CDN also is a smart driver, knows not to push it right there. I believe he thinks he can stay with him, but I do believe the Porsche might be better over the long run than a vet at a place like this, so we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, up front, that battle just continues to rage between McToastie and Super Crusher, sitting 1-2. We were just watching CDN, who is third place in the points, and obviously with the leader Cat Guy out, he's one of the guys looking to move up. We saw Super Crusher right there, who was comes in 4th in points and was your pole sitter. But further back down in the field, currently battling for 8th place, sitting in 9th, is Lecky. Lecky coming in 2nd in the points, 21 points back in his Corvette, and he is battling Green Gaming and Luke, as Green Gaming makes the pass and Lecky's back to 10th. This was much like last week at Watkins Glen, really an opportunity for Lecky to move up in the championship, but he didn't take advantage of it last week, and thus far hasn't really taken advantage of it here at Laguna Seca either.
and set that outside turn up so he could be on the inside line coming out onto the last corner onto the front stretch.
I know Lecky's got the pace with this car, and he's just going to have to start trying to tick him off. I personally, even if you're on the strategy of saving the tires, 25 seconds and with 8-9 cars in front of you, that's too far back for my taste. You want to be a little closer than that, even if you are saving. But we'll see what his lap times go, as obviously he's racing relative to those other two guys up there close in the points, but he's trying to make the move on Deadly Hawk, who has now fallen back to 7th again. But he's 5 seconds back, and Lecky goes off. Does he keep it off the tire barrier? He does. Beautiful save.
Goodness. Wow.
Looks like he had what you call a moment there, or as Tom Sneva, the former Indy 500 winner, used to say in broadcast, the tires aren't the only things leaving skid marks out there. But that was a fantastic save.
Yeah, how he kept it off of the wall, especially once he gets out in the dirt where there's no traction. Those slicks, hot, now full of dirt. So he'll have to, kind of gather himself up. I wonder what happened there. I wonder what happened. Steering, braking.
Coming onto the throttle off the corner. That's exactly what I think that was. The car started to step. He corrected the wheel, and it kind of kicked him a little bit. And he was smart enough to know. You notice he did that without damaging the car, and that was because he didn't spin it. He didn't lose control of it. He knew he had to go into. I think he let that car go into the sand because it was spin it or go into the sand and try to ride it out. So to some extent, he rode it down the wall on purpose, but that was to avoid something worse. But he managed to pull it off. So great job. Still 12 drivers on the track, but Lecky's got not too many behind him. Meanwhile, McToasty still running second to the pole sitter Super Crusher right on his tail. Still just 14 minutes in, 31 minutes and change remaining here at Laguna Seca.
I really love this track because they race everything here. They race motorcycles here. It's Indy cars. It's everything. If it's a motorsport, they probably run. I'm sure they probably run Miatas here, but they run everything at this track. It's a beautiful track. I know that they'll run. I think about Adam Carolla, who's a real big fan of Paul Newman's old Datsuns.
Yeah,
and has a lot of those and restored those, and they race a lot of vintage cars here too. This would be one of those bucket list racetracks for somebody, especially an American, to get to be able to not only see the track but see the wide range of vehicles that actually race here.
Oh yeah, if I recall correctly, and I don't remember the official name of it, but like the biggest national vintage racing meet in the U.S. is held here at Laguna Seca. It's like called Vintage Weeks or something. They have a huge vintage racing festival here. Laguna Seca has, despite its place as an FIA high grade racetrack, it has always been a club racing track. There are literally hundreds of racers from all over California who come down here and race just about everything. And like you said, I love tracks like that. The concept of what's now the Flux American Tour and what we ran in the past, as it looks like Jiggly Jello coming out of the pits. But the concept of that, of having racing multiple classes in a national championship level at the same venue, to me is really appealing. I would run stock cars here if I wouldn't mind it, even though that would be crazy. It's one of those things where you can adapt. You adapt to what you're driving, but it is a great destination. It's definitely a bucket list track, no doubt. And in the meantime, you can see those lap times are identical between these two. I can almost guarantee you McToasty may or may not have what it takes to pass, but he's definitely, I don't think, pushing too hard at the moment. There's no reason to this early. As long as you're keeping pace with the guy and you're keeping up with him, you can decide later when to make that pass. Now, my decision as to when to make that pass was always based on my own car, as opposed to his. And I might know that, okay, on a 30-lap run, my tires start to go away on lap 22. If I'm going to make a move, it has to be, I want his tires old, but it has to be before 22. So I'll be thinking to myself, sometime between 17 and 22, I'm going to make the move. It might be a situation like that, but he's definitely waiting at the moment, looking at the clock and going, when do I want to make this move? They're coming up on some lap traffic now. They've already passed Jiggly Jello, and Andrews is not far in front of him, so that might be the time to make the move. You might recall one shoe several seasons ago in a multi-class sports car championship race, the predecessor to this series. I was running in the prototype class, and the teammates, the GT running teammates of the prototype car I was racing, decided to block the track. They let their teammate through, and then they blocked the track on me. And I spent 4 laps running behind those guys and lost 15 seconds. And it just goes to show you how easily you can hold up a car here at Laguna Seca. And that's with a car that you're 4 or 5 seconds, 6 seconds a lap faster than. So he's really got to be careful about when to make this move. Meanwhile, don't want to go away from this compelling stuff, but Pogo and Muttley's battle has closed in again. Pogo was up to within 6 seconds of the leaders, but has fallen back a little bit. He had a 1:31 on the last lap, which obviously is a shunt of some kind, or a penalty or whatnot. But Muttley, who, looking at those lap times, we've said it all season, Muttley's been quietly moving up. And he's running 4th, and he's running 123s right with the leaders. Running the top running Ford at the moment. CDN Trooper back in 5th, about 8 seconds behind him. He's got pressure from the Porsche of Deadly Hawk yet again. Looking to move up every bit he can. CDN came in 20, as we said, 25 points back. He's 13 ahead of Super Crusher, so he definitely wants to make up as much ground as he can on him, at least even if he's too far back to catch him in the race. He needs to try to pick off 1 or 2 more, get on the podium, and that would put him in a much better position, especially with Lecky stuck back in 8th place and battling with the Ferrari of Luke Snipes, who's got a banged up front nose on that Ferrari. Luke's had some good rides this season in that Ferrari. Him and Harry have kind of held the factory Ferrari camp together, and I fully expect Luke to be, if he comes back and runs next season, I think he can win a race in that car.
Yeah, especially now after having, it's great to start building your book of information and starting to know your characteristics. You know that you're locked in to that ride for another season, and with what you've shown that you can do with that car, and every piece of information that you gather, every lap that you turn, you're always putting some more notes in there, like maybe a little more brake bias change there, especially when you're coming down off of the corkscrew.
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously building your book, looking at a series as having to run the first season just to get the feel of it. The other thing, and that's a lot of the concept behind the Flux American Tours running these, is that by running the American racetracks, it is a situation where a lot of the European and Australian drivers, they haven't run these as much. So it's going to take them some, this could possibly be the first championship length and level race they've ever run at this track, besides 5-lap sprints in a public lobby. So it's going to take some time to build it up. Guys like you and me, once you have been running this tour of tracks for years, we're familiar with this place, but some of these guys this is the first season around, and they've, as you said, they got to build up their notebook. Lecky's got speed and he can move up. He's shown it.
Right, but put me in a GT3 car at Rupana Park, and I'm down in the back there, because if it hasn't been something where it's been at a community event, I've run a V8 supercar there once, just because we did once.
Yeah.
But those tracks where the Europeans are very familiar, where they turn a lot of
Snetterton.
laps.
Yeah, a lot of the British touring car championship tracks, the ones that our colleagues on the Flux EU side have run. I've run them a few times in career mode or whatever, but I haven't run. We've made in our predecessors, we've made tour stops in Brands Hatch once in a while. We've even done Silverstone once or twice, but those more obscure, not more obscure, but not as internationally known tracks. Those are those are ones that I'm completely lost at. So I can understand these guys. They've probably run Daytona, they've run Watkins Glen, they've run COTA certainly, but they may not have run much of on a championship level. There are American stops on the Flux EU Tour races, but not season after season the way that guys like you and I have. And it looks like Luke has almost taken the front completely off of that Ferrari. He's trying to limp it around as we have just crossed the crossed flags here halfway through tonight's round 7 race at Laguna Seca. Yeah, Luke's banged up a little bit up front there.
The great part about this too is that for those people that are watching right now that want to be part of the action, it's easy enough to do. You join the Flux community. You do this by going to www.fluxmotorsport.com, sign up, join us on the Discord, get your evaluation drive, pick one of the 7 championship series. 2021 Season 2 coming soon, and you too can be featured here on Flux TV. And while you're on the Flux Discord, you get opportunities to participate in community races, get setups. The support in the community is very amazing. We would also like for you to consider a donation to support what we're doing here. Browse the marketplace for FluxWag, because winning is pointless if you don't look good while you're doing it. Discounts and offers available through Fanatec and ACELIT through our affiliate links. Join us here at Flux Motorsport, the home of clean sim racing and eMotorsports.
Absolutely. I had a comment on the broadcast from Jelmer saying Europeans run mostly European tracks, Americans run American tracks. Yeah, that's kind of the concept behind it, is that you have national level racing and regional level racing and then the international FIA grade racing. And the reality is when you look at the number of drivers that compete, the number of championship level races, you basically have a racing world that can divide up in Asia Pacific, North America, the Americas in general, North America, South America, Europe, and you have a lot of drivers that can come together. And that's what Flux is all about, is bringing all those drivers together. But the concept specifically around a series like this, like we said, it's tough for guys who aren't used to the series. A perfect example would be, I would love to run, if I was to run a British Touring Car Championship or run the V8 Supercar Championship, or just going and running in what Flux has now in GT1 or any of those tracks. I don't have, like you had said once, you don't have a book full of notes. It would be a couple of sessions of practice that week, getting what I can out of the car, and then that first season would probably be just figuring out what I don't know. And that's what we've seen this season here in some of these races, especially the Indy cars and the stock cars. You have the added element of a foreign equipment, really. But here in the GTEs, the cars are similar to the ones run in Europe and the Pacific regions, but the tracks are different, and we've seen guys, as we said, up and down a little bit. Lecky was terrific at Road America a couple weeks back and getting the win, a track he's more familiar with, I suppose. But the last 2 weeks here, it hadn't worked out as well for him. So we've definitely seen that. It's what's made this championship very interesting this season. And we'll be right back here tomorrow night for the Indy cars, 8 p.m. Eastern, here at Laguna Seca. And on Sunday, the stock cars will be at Indianapolis, 8 p.m. Eastern, to run that round there. The LMP2s, let me pull my schedule up here in front of me. LMP2s will be running tomorrow. at Indianapolis Road Course. Well, hey, they're right there with the stock cars. I didn't realize that. I wondered why there wasn't as much space in the garage when I was practicing yesterday. It's because the LMP2 drivers came over and took all our garage space. So there's going to be some trouble in Gasoline Alley. But then that'll be 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow on Saturday. And then on Sunday, the ever-popular GT3 Championship will be at the Dubai Autodrome over in the United Arab Emirates. They'll be running on the national circuit. So looking forward to a great weekend of action. Actually, we hope
Giacomo will be the broadcaster for the LMP2, and in the console, the super competitive GT3. I've been watching those between Blankfile and Bruce Law. Just an incredible the racing that those guys put on in the European circuit is just, it's incredible. If you haven't watched any of those other series, give them a watch here on Flux Motorsport TV.
Absolutely, they've had some fantastic races in GT3, and it's been like you said, that championship is coming down to the wire, much like this one, and I fully expect to see those two racing all the way down to the final weekend. Just like these guys are going to be here, as they have been nonstop. Just under 17 minutes to go now in the 45-minute championship event here at Laguna Seca. McToasty still right there with Super. Pogo and Muttley, little bit back, 12, 16 seconds back. CDN Trooper running in 5th place. Has not been able to really significantly make up ground on Pogo and Muttley like he had hoped, but to save a top 5 here would be very valuable indeed. Battling on the track, meanwhile, back in 9th, Lecky's still trying to get out of that as he is on there with It's Your Boy Squash, not far behind him. Jiggly Jello a little bit of a ways back. These guys a lap down now, I believe. But we've seen very few pit stops. I think these guys are definitely committed to making this an endurance race and a conservation race. But if anybody's got anything to bring out, now's the time. There's no doubt about it. All right, McToasty right back on top. Everest ran a 1:22.9. These guys are getting quicker as the tires burn off, as the fuel burns down one shoe.
You know, I got a question here. Looking at these guys going into those first 2 turns there, is that, you know, do you try to take that first corner? Do you try to make 2 turns out of it, or do you try to make just one turn out of those 2?
My personal opinion is if you're driving defensively, if you're in Super Crusher's position right now, you have no choice but to drive it defensively. You've got to make it a 2-turn hairpin. You got to go down to the inside. You got to keep him from having the preferred line coming out, or he will make the pass. Now, if you're in McToasty's position, you can take the hairpin like that wide and make it a more of a sweeping curve. And if you hit it right, you're going to be well quicker coming out. That's the disadvantage to being in the lead right here. The advantage, though, is that regardless of if he gets the quicker run by going wider, he better make it stick, because there's not a whole lot of places to put it in on this track. They come off 11. You can almost make a pass there. If you have enough horsepower, you can make a pass here at the end of the front stretch into the Andretti hairpin. But these guys are running identical lap times and identical Corvette C7Rs, so I don't see either one of them having more muscle than the other one at this point. It's all down to handling, tires, and the nerve of the driver.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of figuring. It's kind of hard to. That's probably the toughest thing, is you're trying to figure out a way to beat somebody who's pretty much in the same car that you're in. So then it's really up to the driver to get the most out of what they've got.
As we've got Lecky hitting the pits down near the back, he's obviously going to get some new tires or had a little bit of damage on it. But the compelling stuff right up front here just shows you when the guys have the cars dialed in right, they will run identical lap times. That's exactly what these guys are doing. They're running identical. Pogo and Muttley are not far off of them. And that tells me that with that gap staying the same, that tells you when Pogo and Muttley hit the trailer and look at their notes, they're going to say, we lost most of that time at the beginning of the race trying to get through the traffic. That's why qualifying is important. All other things being equal, if you're going to hit identical laps from each other, which is what the top 5 has been doing this entire race, then it's all going to come down to the start and who got the better jump.
And how crazy that in a 45-minute race, something as inconsequential as you think as the positioning at the start would come off to wind up being this big of a gap. I guess the cars wind up being a lot closer as far as their capabilities than what I would even guessed at this point.
Oh yeah, in my preparation for races, I would watch the broadcast from the previous season, and I'd take a look at it. In a race like this, I'd be coming back next season, and I'm taking a look, and what I'm seeing is, you look at the beginning of that race, they started by lap 1-2, the first lap at speed, they were at about 126s. By the third and fourth lap, Super and McToasty were down in the 123s where they'd been running. 123s, 124s, tires were getting heat in them, fuel was starting to burn off. Everybody from third back to about eighth were in the 126s, 125, 126s for about the next 3 or 4 laps until they strung out enough to where they got into a groove, a lane to run in. And that, to me, is the gap in the race. It's 4, 5, 6 seconds right at the start. It's the 8 or 9 seconds that came from trying to get away from the pack, from third on back. That's the difference, really, to Pogo and Muttley, they continue to fall back a little bit by tenths of a second at a time, but that's also driving in third. You're driving harder, trying to catch them to some extent. These guys have been running nose to tail, though, this entire time, and they're now down to 11 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, and if Super and McToasty, if their strategy is set up to where they don't have to get fuel, then it's going to be pretty hard for Pogo and Muttley to catch these guys unless there's some incidental contact, something big happens. And if it happens going down the corkscrew, I want to say at this point that I didn't mean to throw any bad mojo on anybody.
Honestly, you're getting near the end of the race. I don't expect this out of driver like McToasty or Super Crusher, but your last good shot is the corkscrew. It's not really a passing zone, but it's the last spot where the guy's going to be hard on the brakes in front of you, and you might have a shot at outbraking him. So I have seen it happen before at this place. I've seen guys who used to get called into the big red trailer more often than not who thought it was a passing zone. But it definitely, and you cannot run a race at Laguna Seca. We'll definitely talk about it tomorrow night in the Indy cars, but you cannot talk about it without the eternal debate of the 1996 IndyCar race at Laguna Seca when Alex Zanardi passed Brian Herta through the sand in the corkscrew. He won the race. There's constantly been a debate as to whether that should have been legal. I am the one, as an official, who has said I would have penalized him. Herta would have won that race. Zanardi would have been penalized. You cannot jump the corkscrew and pass somebody. His argument was that, the car wasn't stopping. He had a brake issue, or Herta threw him off, whatever, and he shot through. I love Alex Zanardi, don't get me wrong. He's an inspirational guy and a fantastic driver, but he went straight down through that sand right there to pass Herta, and they should have black flagged him for doing that. No doubt in my mind.
I remember watching that race, and was kind of rooting for Brian in that case. He'd had kind of an off year and was looking so strong, and this is going to be an opportunity for a win. And to kind of get snake bit like that, yeah, I felt that was very unfair. Oh,
Muttley falling back all of a sudden. Muttley's back in 5th now. He's been passed by CDN Trooper. Looks to me like he had some kind of off. Is that a piece hanging? Yeah, he just lost a piece of debris
Oh, like maybe like a piece of suspension.
It looks like
Broken
something's bouncing on there. I don't see any other damage to the car, but am I seeing things, or is that hanging kind of low?
It might be the diffuser. The diffuser might be.
Maybe
yeah, it is. It looks like the diffuser's separated from the rear body panel.
That's going to definitely affect your downforce at the back. As he appears, doesn't look that bad. Maybe we're just seeing things, but he fell back from well ahead of CDN Trooper, now down to, as he gets into him right there.
Yeah, there was
a slight bit of contact, and now Muttley's got to wait it out, and both of these guys are going to suffer for it, because that's going to put the other guys, Green Gaming, Deadly Hawk, and Drooks, these guys are all coming up on him. They still should maintain their position, but Muttley fell back rapidly as he was running comfortably in fourth, and now he's going to have to battle CDN Trooper to get that fourth place finish. So Muttley doing the sporting thing and waiting right there. They weren't going to catch Pogo from there, but still very tough situation for both of them, as now the guys behind them are at least within shouting distance. But meanwhile, back up front, it is still, with 7 minutes to go, Super Crusher and McToasty. Let's get some cockpit time with McToasty one shoe and see what he's seeing as he's trying to line up Super Crusher. Makes it through 5, coming down to turn 6.
All these blind corners where you really have to have the faith, where you can't miss your turn in at any point. And then, yep.
Right here, let's see what they got. They are both excellent through the corkscrew. You're not seeing any wheel spin. You're not seeing the car kick sideways on them. I'm sure they don't feel like it's perfect, but they look perfect through the corkscrew, and that's a big key to this track. It's a combination of turns. People wonder what makes a track have such variations in it. This is a place that doesn't have one corner like a Daytona, where you say, we got to get off that corner for the long straightaway. Or Road America. There's nothing like that here. Everything is, the straightaways are pretty short. This is a track where you have to string together 11 good turns to get a good lap. And honestly, to see the fact that these lead guys have, the top 5 guys have been running practically identical lap times this whole race, just variated by a few tenths in the 123s most of the race. That's just a testament to the level of talent here in Flux Motorsport, that they've been able to do that at a place like this.
5 minutes left too, so now we're kind of getting down to the point where if you've got anything, there we had a car that was off. If you've got anything left, trying to make that decision about where you followed the car in front of you, and hopefully by now you've started to figure out where's the point where you feel that you're better than them. Is it inside? Is it outside? Last corner, first corner, corkscrew, plenty of opportunities. And how long do you wait?
Absolutely. Let's give a little quick airtime on the track side to Pogo. Pogo has he's a former race-winning driver in this class of cars, and Pogo has had a rough season. He is, from the very first round at Daytona on the first lap, he has been hit many times. He's been some of which, quite a few of which was somebody else's doing. And he's really just been fast all season, but been unable to bring home a finish. So I think for Pogo, he'll be kicking the start there where somebody got into him and he dropped back to 7th or 8th and had to drive his way back up. So he'll be wondering what if that hadn't happened, no doubt. But I think for the season he's had, Pogo's got to be happy with if he can hold on and get on the podium here. It would be his first podium of the season in this series, and I think that it's been a long time coming. But meanwhile, we don't want to miss out up front. We've got battles all over this place. CDN and Muttley are still going at it. But meanwhile, McToasty and Super Crusher They're battling for the race win here with just 3:38 to go. We're running the clock down now.
And you know, Pogo started this season off with a rally car win in the snow.
One night of hell.
One night of hell. Yeah.
Yeah, he came out against 32 competitors in the Flux special event in the preseason, the One Night of Hell Rallycross event in Norway, and took the win. He was dominant all night long, and we know he's good. He's an excellent GT sports car driver. It's just not been his season. He's gotten in a lot of wrecks. He has made his own mistakes. He has pushed too hard at times and had a problem, but he has been hit quite a few times on opening laps and has never really been able to bring home the finish he wanted. So getting a podium here would be a big step, because you know he'll be strong coming into next season.
Yeah, he's the one. He's already amazing behind the wheel of whatever you put him in, and now he's kind of got the bit in his teeth, and I look for him to challenge for championships in any series he elects to drive in next season.
Oh yeah. Meanwhile here, like Super Crusher, I'll try to do the math here for you with Cat Guy out. Super Crusher back 4th place in the points, 38 back, a win here. I don't know if he has the fastest lap. That would put him, we'll call it without bonuses, even though we know he has the pole bonus. That would put him with the pole bonus within 2 of Cat Guy. CDN in 4th. They go 35, 30, 27, 25. CDN would actually be tied with Cat Guy where he finishes at. And Lecky back in 10th will fall behind both of them. So as it sits, as they run right now, coming into the last race, you know, not discounting Cat Guy because we know he's not running and scoring points in the last race, that would put CDN 2 points ahead of Super Crusher heading into the final round.
And that's exactly what you want to see. You'd like to be able to see 2 or 3 cars, 2 or 3 drivers at that very last race. You know, it's kind of where we see some of the changes in some of the race leagues where they went to more of a playoff format. Here this season, where normally we have 8 races in a season, down to 7 races with the challenge that we had with PSN servers back in
week
race 4. So now, yeah, not that the points aren't already at a premium, but this
even more so.
Yeah, going to be very interesting come next week at kind of a really an odd track, the Texas Motor Speedway, the road course.
Oh yeah, and speaking of which, we are on the white flag now. This is it. White flag lap, final lap here at Laguna Seca. If McToastie's got anything for Super Crusher, he's got to try to do it now. He has waited all this time, but just a fantastic drive. He hasn't thrown it away. Let's see what he's got. Super Crusher looking for his first Flux American Sports Car Championship win, as is McToastie, I believe.
Looks like Lecky just got out of the way. Did not want to do anything to hold up the leaders.
All right, where does he want to take this? Where does he want to take this shot at?
Corkscrew. I vote for the corkscrew.
I think that's what we're looking at here.
I think he's been just a little bit better there. He's not close enough.
But the dive down is good.
Yes.
Now they go through the rainy curve, and it's going to be very, very.
Now
little girls cheering.
We've seen go outside to set him up on the inside for turn 11.
Let's see. I don't think he's got it. I don't think he's got enough here. It was a great effort, but it's going to be Super Crusher from the pole, from the start, to get his first win in the Flux American Sports Car Championship.
Awesome race.
A fantastic run there. Pogo going to try to bring it home here in 3rd, his first podium of the season. You got to give him credit for another terrific drive. Finally getting the finish he's been looking for. And he will bring it home to round out our podium. Muttley getting the best of that battle with CDN. He's going to pull back into the 4th place. Muttley, I think, had a shot at more. He would like to think he had a shot at the podium, but once again, this is like his 3rd top 5 this season. And he's made that Ford GT work. He's been consistently getting up there near the top 5.
Yeah, one of the few Ford drivers that we've seen, even though the Corvettes have been pretty dominant here. It's nice to see some other manufacturers up there that are putting on a good showing also.
Absolutely. CDN Trooper. We'll see where his penalty comes out. Deadly Hawk bringing the nose of that Porsche across the line. We were wondering about those, and he wound up coming home in 6th. Well, let's get your final results here for the Flux Motorsport 2021 Season 1 American Sports Car GTE Championship at Laguna Seca Race 7. Your winner from the pole, Super Crusher. I believe, does he have the fastest lap as well? No, Pogo does at a 1:21.9. So Super Crusher will win from the pole, picking up 36 total points, his first career win in the series, and that is going to put him right in line to race for the championship next week at Texas Motor Speedway. Finishing second with another fantastic drive, Mick Toasty in his Corvette. Waited that whole race, was looking to make his move. You can see by the best laps, those guys were nose to tail on top of each other. I just think Super Crusher never made the era that McToasty needed to get by him, but he brings it home in second, finishing 3rd and rounding out our podium. First podium of the season for Pogo Mojo, long overdue with a solid drive. He also brings home the best lap bonus. Yeoman's drive for Muttley as he brings that Ford home in 4th place with the highest finishing Ford. CDN Trooper, I believe, from where he's at, if my math is correct, he will tie Cat Guy for the points lead with that 5th place finish. I could be wrong. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, he's going to be just short of him based on finishing 5th, but with Cat Guy out, he and Super Crusher will be right near each other at the top. 6th place for Deadly Hawk in that Porsche. We were wondering, I was thinking he could get into that top 5 one shoe, but he managed nonetheless to bring it home in 6th. He had a pace that was good enough with the leaders, but obviously the car got banged up at the end and left him nothing to fight with. Green Gaiman brings home that Ford GT in 7th place. Andrux, after the early damage, gets the car fixed, gets back out, and drives it back up to 8th. Remember, we had 14 cars prepared to start and 12 that took the green, so he's going to wind up with a mid-pack finish there by grinding it out. Jiggly Jello not having the race he was hoping for. He was a podium contender and brings home his Ford in 9th place. Lecky with a real shot here at moving up in the championship's going to take it on the chin today as he brings home that Corvette in 10th. And Luke Snipes will bring home that Porsche in 11th as the final one of our finishers. So another fantastic night of racing one shoe here in the American GTE Championship. They will be heading out tomorrow or next week for the finale at the Texas Motor Speedway. It is going to be a fantastic finish with, I believe, 3 or 4 cars still in mathematical contention for the championship and about half a dozen or more in contention for the season's podium. Tomorrow, as we said, 8 p.m. UK time, the LMP2s will be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have the Indy cars right back here at Laguna Seca. All right, so anything to add here, One Shoe, before we sign off?
I'm so looking forward to next week now. It's going to be exciting. You're going to have a lot of drivers, a lot of opportunities here, and we're going to see some very hard and very clean racing here on the Flux Motorsport Network.
Absolutely. Well, for One Shoe, this is Carlin Hicks. We're going to sign off with it. We will see you tomorrow at Indianapolis for the LMP2s and back here at Laguna Seca for the Indy cars. Have a good night.